Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to do a talk on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. A bit different than what I usually do, but hopefully you'll get something from it. It's also going to be a PowerPoint presentation. So we'll start that off now. So the Green Knight in this tale has been connected to the idea of the Green Man. The name Green Man was first used by Lady Raglan in March 1939 in an article she wrote for the Folklore Journal. Before this, they had been known just as Foliat heads, and no one had paid them any particular attention. Green men are usually found on religious buildings, but not always. The Green Man is also a popular name for English inns and pubs. And this is one in Liverpool to show that it's not just in leafy English villages that they appear. There's even a Green Man music and arts festival held in the Brecon Beacons in Wales in August. However, the Green Man is an example of how images from the old religion were brought into Christian churches before the Reformation and is one of the most ancient pagan symbols to be found in the Christian church. Here is one in Rosslyn Chapel near Edinburgh, which I visited a few days ago. Pre-Christian pagan traditions and superstitions, particularly those related to nature and tree worship, were still influential in the early Middle Ages. It is therefore perhaps not surprising that the Green Man seems to appear most often in places where there are stretches of ancient woodland, for example in Devon and Somerset, and on the edges of the forest areas of Yorkshire and the Midlands, but also all over the country, sometimes in the most unexpected places. There are related figures too, such as Jack in the Green and Green George. Here is an image of the Green Man associated with tree worship and the spring and his relationship with nature. So also, as said, there are related figures such as Jack in the Green and Green George. Here we see an image of Jack in the Green and Jill in the Green by the looks of it. There's also a green woman, not just a green man, there's a green woman, not known as much, but she does exist. But these figures appear much later in our folklore. The earliest record of a Jack in the Green appears in the Morning Chronicle and London Advertiser in 1775. And of course, Robin Hood also was said to dress in Lincoln green. However, the common theme which runs through these figures would seem to be that of death and rebirth, and the green that means life. Perhaps then the Green Man appears in our medieval churches as a symbol of rebirth and resurrection, tying together the ancient pagan symbols associated with spring with the Christian faith. The Green Man is one of the oldest symbols known to humankind. Most agree that he is Celtic in origin, but his image has been found across the ancient world. The foliage-covered lord of the forest, nature and agriculture, was worshipped by many ancient tribes as one of the main gods. As awareness grew, the Green Man became an ever-present symbol of rebirth, rejuvenation, and the cycle of life and death. He preserved the forests, which preserved the habitats of all creatures, protected vital streams and rivers, and cleansed the air. He held space with all the magical creatures of the forest, known as the Fae, and some have even called him the King of the Fairies. The Christian mystic Hildegard of Bingen used the word viriditas, or greening. She believed in the healing power of green and the divine power of green in nature. According to Derek Bryce in his book The Mystical Way and the Arthurian Quest, the Green Man is often described as the king of the world, sometimes as the eternal prophet. It is said that he celebrates his sacred rites underground, and that when he does, the whole of nature above stands still and is silent. The initiations in Egypt, Greece, and other places throughout history took place underground, where the candidate had to remain for a period of time as part of the process. He also says that the Green Knight stands as an initiator when a tradition is on the decline and no one else is qualified to do the initiation. The Voice of the Silence, translated by H.P. Blavatsky, states a similar thing regarding the one who has attained adeptship. No conqueror of sins, once at a Soani, hath crossed the seventh path. All nature thrills with joyous awe and feels subdued. The silver star now twinkles out the news to the night blossoms. The streamlet to the pebbles ripples out the tale. Dark ocean waves will roar it to the rocks, surf bound. The scent-laden breezes sing it to the vales and stately pines. And they mysteriously whisper, a master has arisen, a master of the day. He standeth now like a white pillar to the west, upon whose face the rising sun of thought eternal poureth forth its most glorious waves. His mind, like a becalmed and boundless ocean, spreadeth out in shoreless space. He holdeth life and death in his strong hand. So the story I'm talking about today appears in one form as a poem around the 14th century AD. So the story goes, during a New Year's Eve feast at King Arthur's court, a strange figure, referred to only as the Green Knight, pays the court an unexpected visit. He challenges Arthur or any other one present to a game. The Green Knight says that he will allow whomever accepts the challenge to strike him with his own axe, on the condition that the challenger seeks him out in exactly 1 year later to receive a blow in return. So it's an early chapter in the Round Table, as the knights are referred to as beardless youths. Arthur was about to respond, but when the Green Knight mocks Arthur's silence, the king steps forward to take the challenge. As soon as Arthur grips the Green Knight's axe, Sir Gawain leaps up and asks to take the challenge himself. So Gawain has his roots in Welsh legend and is said to be a nephew of King Arthur. The Green Knight accepts the challenge. He takes hold of the axe and in one deadly blow cuts off the Green Knight's head. To the amazement of the court, the now headless Green Knight picks up his severed head before riding away. The head repeats the terms of the pact, reminding the young Gawain to seek him in a year and a day at the Green Chapel. After the Green Knight leaves, the company goes back to its feast. Time passes, and autumn arrives. On the day of All Saints, Gawain prepares to leave Camelot and find the Green Knight. He puts on his best armour, mounts his horse, Gringolet, and starts off towards North Wales, travelling through the wilderness of northwest Britain and the Wirral. Gawain encounters all sorts of beasts, suffers from hunger and cold, and grows more desperate as the days pass. On Christmas Day, he prays to find a place to hear Mass, then looks up to see a castle shimmering in the distance. The lord of the castle welcomes Gawain warmly, introducing him to his lady and to the old woman who sits beside her. For sport, the horse Bertilac strikes a deal with Gawain. The horse will go out hunting with his men every day, and when he returns in the evening, he will exchange his winnings for anything Gawain has managed to acquire by staying behind at the castle. Gawain happily agrees to the pact and goes to bed. The first day, the Lord hunts a herd of deer, while Gawain sleeps late in his bedchambers. On the morning of the first day, the Lord's wife sneaks into Gawain's chamber and attempts to seduce him. Gawain puts her off, but before she leaves, she steals one kiss from him. That evening, when the horse gives Gawain the venison he has captured, Gawain kisses him, since he has won one kiss from the lady. The second day, the Lord hunts a wild boar. The lady again enters Gawain's chambers, and this time she kisses Gawain twice. That evening, Gawain gives the horse the two kisses in exchange for the boar's head. The third day, the Lord hunts a fox. Wasn't very nice. And the lady kisses Gawain 3 times. She also asks him for a love token, such as a ring or a glove. Gawain refuses to give her anything and refuses to take anything from her until the lady mentions her girdle. The green silk girdle she wears around her waist is no ordinary piece of cloth, the lady claims, but possesses the magical ability to protect the person who wears it from death. Intrigued, Gawain accepts the cloth. When it comes time to exchange his winnings with the host, Gawain gives the 3 kisses, but does not mention the lady's green girdle. The host gives Gawain the fox skin he won that day, and they all go into bed happy, but weighed down with the fact that Gawain must leave for the Green Chapel the following morning to find the Green Knight. New Year's Day arrives, and Gawain dons his armour, including the girdle, then sets off with Gringolet to seek the Green Knight. A guide accompanies him out of the estate grounds. When they reach the border of the forest, the guide promises not to tell anyone if Gawain decides to give up the quest. Gawain refuses, determined to meet his fate head on. Eventually, he comes to a kind of crevice in a rock, visible through the tall grasses. He hears the whirring of a grindstone, confirming his suspicion that this strange cavern is in fact the Green Chapel. Gawain calls out, and the Green Knight emerges to greet him, intent on fulfilling the terms of the contract. Gawain then presents his neck to the Green Knight, who proceeds to feign 2 blows. On the third feint, the Green Knight nicks Gawain's neck, barely drawing blood. The Green Knight reveals his name, which is Bertilac, and explains that he is the lord of the castle where Gawain recently stayed. Because Gawain did not honestly exchange all of his winnings on the third day, Bertilac drew blood on his third blow. Nevertheless, Gawain has proven himself a worthy knight, without equal in all the land. When Gawain questions Bertilac further, Bertilac explains that the old woman in the castle is really Morgane le Fay, Gawain's aunt and King Arthur's half-sister. She sent the Green Knight on his original errand and used her magic to change Bertilac's appearance. Relieved to be alive, but extremely guilty about his sinful failure to tell the whole truth, Gawain wears the girdle on his arm as a reminder of his own failure. He returns to Arthur's court, where all the knights join Gawain wearing girdles on their arms to show their support. So now we can see that from this that Sir Gawain goes through a number of trials before he meets the Green Knight at the Green Chapel. As said, green is the symbol of rebirth and the spring of awakening on all levels. Even in a spiritual sense, we're awakening to our true nature. The Green Knight knows that by cutting off his head, he'll not die. Perhaps being deprived of merely the knowledge residing in the head will not be of that great importance. As a voice of the silence tells us of the difference between head learning, the merely intellectual, and the wisdom of the heart, which is intuitive understanding. Interesting that Gawain has a pentagram inscribed on his shield, each point representing a virtue he has to remember throughout his journey to keep him focused. Amongst other things, they represent 5 virtues a knight should have: loving kindness, compassion, courtesy, integrity, and openness, as expressed in the brilliant film by David Rudkin, which was a TV film from the 90s, well worth watching. It sticks very close to the original. And I like this version of the meaning above all others. Although the film has Christian symbology, many of its elements are pagan, such as the green man and the pentagram or pentacle. The pentacle is used in magical operations and for protection. We are told that a 4th book of occult philosophy, about 1565, which was falsely attributed to Agrippa, gives detailed instructions as to how pentacles should be formulated. It says, "But we now come to speak of the holy and sacred pentacles and sigils. Now these pentacles are, as it were, certain holy signs, preserving us from evil chances and events, and helping and assisting us to bind, exterminate, and drive away evil spirits, and alluring the good spirits, and reconciling them unto us. And these pentacles do consist either of characters of the good spirits of the superior order, or of sacred pictures of holy letters or revelations, with apt and fit versicles, which are composed either of geometrical figures and holy names of God, according to the course and manner of many of them, or they are compounded of all of them, or very many of them mixed." So these ideas are incorporated in the story as a symbol is meant to protect Gawain on his journey. In the Golden Dawn magical system, the Earth Pentacle is one of 4 elemental weapons or tools of an adept. These weapons are symbolically representations of the forces employed for the manifestation of the inner self, the elements required for the incarnation of the divine. In the tarot, the minor arcana are divided into 4 suits, much like conventional playing cards, which are swords, batons, cups, and coins. Following the innovation of Eliphas Levi, many English language writers on tarot divination now call the coins pentacles and the batons wands. The first published tarot deck to use an actual suit of pentacles was the 1909 Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. That deck inspired the creation of subsequent tarot decks, which likewise have a suit of pentacles. In the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, Arthur Edward Waite designed the pentacles as golden discs with a pentagram on them. The Wiccan style of pentacle, which is a disc that is covered by a pentagram symbol, was based upon the pentacles from this Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. So the traditional suit of coins, revised as pentacles in the 1909 Rider-Waite tarot deck, was designed by Golden Dawn initiates A.E. Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith. So we can see from this that the pentacles had much deeper meanings than the one ascribed to it by Christianity. So in the tale, the pentacle on the shield helps to remind Gawain of his knightly duties. It's also interesting to note that the old lady in the story turns out to be Morgana Le Fay. Originally, she was not as evil as she's portrayed later, as most tales and films portray her, but actually a protector of King Arthur and one of those who took him to the Isle of Avalon when he was dying. She was a healer and enchantress. Her character is very much ambiguous because she may be the combination of a number of characters, some good and some evil. Traditionally, she's the half-sister of Arthur and the mother of Mordred, who is also Arthur's son after she tricked him. He was said to be the one who brought about Arthur's downfall, which led to his death. The characters of Morgana Le Fay and Mordred are extremely complex and would take several lectures to explain their full depth, but it's far beyond the scope of this short talk. In the context of this story, though, even though her identity is only revealed at the end, as she has been posing as an old woman, it is said that she has been orchestrating the whole event. She sent the Green Knight to Arthur's court. It is said to terrify Guinevere, hopefully to death, who she was jealous of. And it was she that was behind all the events that occurred. So though she is only mentioned briefly, she plays a big part in the whole drama. When Bertilac goes out hunting, she arranges for his wife to try to seduce Gawain. But Gawain remains true to his chivalrous duty. But so as not to offend the woman, he agrees to a kiss, but no more. And he openly tells Bertilac and gives him the kiss in return. So 3 times he is honest, but on the 3rd time he keeps the secret as he believes it will save his life. This is the only time he shows a lack of faith in his knightly duties. So it has been suggested that there is a link between Bertilac's hunting and the pursuit of Gawain by Bertilac's wife. Bertilac gives Gawain the fruits of his day's hunting, as Gawain gives Bertilac what he has gotten from the day's events too. John Matthews, in his book Gawain, Knight of the Goddess, states that Sir Gawain was the original Grail Knight, but was supplanted by Galahad by the Christians, and in the end portrayed as a womanizer who failed in the quest. But he was originally the Knight of the Goddess, and the goddess had more of an important part than the gods. Obviously, Christianity is a very male-based religion. And the Christians tried to supplant this goddess idea with the more patriarchal system. So, of course, this is because Gawain has its roots in pagan tradition, which the Christians tried unsuccessfully to crush out, as they do anything other than their own teachings, which have been altered many times. Even Jesus suddenly ceases to be Jewish in their eyes. Fortunately, the pagan traditions have not been crushed out, but remained and are now coming to the fore again. So Gawain goes through lots of trials and tests and mainly succeeds. In the end, it is the Green Knight, symbolizing nature, that gives him his final test. Nature is our greatest teacher if we only resist the temptations of this material world. A Theosophical master says that sermons may even be preached through stones. So it is out in nature, away from any material distractions, that he faces his destiny. Remember that the guide who led him to the Green Chapel tried to tempt him to give up the quest, and that he would tell no one if he did. It's like all things that prevent us from continuing on our pilgrimage, that try to make us doubt and make us feel that we should turn back and live a so-called normal life. We've been through so much and experienced so much that has given us a different view of the world and our relationship with it. It requires a leap to leave behind the pull of the past. In one sense, the characters in the story are aspects of ourselves. There's the questing mind, like Gawain, that has to go through many trials and tribulations to awaken to what we truly are. Like the coming of spring with all its greenery. It's as Hildegard of Bingen said, it's the divine power of green in nature. Not just the physical nature or the physical green, but the inner meaning of both that has the power to bless and to heal on all levels. The lower nature in the form of Morgana Le Fay tries in many ways to throw us off the trail and beguile us. But if we stand firm in our true being, then we are sure to come through in the end. But nature will remain as our guide and inspiration, as there is no greater book than the book of nature. And if we learn to read that, we will discover many secrets that are hidden from the lower aspects of our mind that is predominant in modern society. Gawain faces his fate bravely, but survives because of his honesty, only receiving a slight nick for concealing the sash given to him by Lady Bertilac. He faces the possibility of death as part of the initiation process and comes through as a renewed man. In Tibet, monks will sit and meditate on burial grounds to help them overcome their fear of death. But I always like to look at how the teachings can be practically applied, as this is by far the most important. So we must try to be honest with ourselves and others, follow the heart, the intuition, no matter what the world throws at us. We know inwardly what is right, and we know that only a small percentage of humanity do and are able to think for themselves. So we must carry on despite the voices that try to dissuade us, like the guide in the story. Is the hero in us, the spiritual warrior. I will use the quotes I've used before from Light on the Path by Mabel Collins, which I think fits in here. It says, stand aside in the coming battle, and though thou fightest, be not thou the warrior. Look for the warrior and let him fight in thee. Take his orders for battle and obey them. Obey him not as though he were a general, but as though he were thyself, and his spoken words were the utterance of thy secret desires. For he is thyself, yet infinitely wiser and stronger than thyself. Look for him, else in the fever and hurry of the fight, thou mayest pass him, and he will not know thee unless thou knowest him. If thy cry meet his listening ear, then he will fight in thee and fill the dull void within. And if this is so, then canst thou go through the fight cool and unwearied, standing aside and letting him battle for thee, that it will be impossible for thee to strike one blow amiss. But if thou look not for him, if thou pass him by, then there is no safeguard for thee. Thy brain will reel, thy heart grow uncertain, and in the dust of the battlefield, thy sight and senses will fail, and thou wilt not know thy friends from thy enemies. He is thyself, yet thou art but finite and liable to error. He is eternal and is sure. He is eternal truth. When once he has entered thee and become thy warrior, he will never utterly desert thee. And at the day of the great peace, he will become one with thee. There we see Gawain. This is connected to the Holy Grail because, of course, he was Also one of the Grail Knights, as I mentioned earlier, originally said to be the Grail Knight himself, but the Christians changed it and put Galahad into it. As we can see from this story, the version I read was very Christianized, because originally Gawain was a pagan knight, but he was pushed into the background by the Christian religion. Originally the Knight of the Goddess, as said. So remember what the pentacle represented on Gawain's shield: loving kindness, compassion, courtesy, integrity, and openness. If we can meditate on these 5 points, it will reveal to us a way of life that is truly productive in a spiritual sense. So thanks for listening to that. Hopefully you may have got something from it. And I'll see you very, very soon. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings.